everybody, and welcome. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 115 of the This Old Knit podcast. I am your host, Nina, otherwise known as Ine, on Ravelry, Instagram, and Pinterest. And you can find show notes for this episode and all previous episodes on the corresponding numbered thread of the This Old Knit Ravelry group. For those just joining me, welcome. And for those who are returning viewers, welcome back. I'm coming to you from the very warm, well, not super warm, central portion of Connecticut. It's like 78 degrees today, so it's actually pretty pleasant comparatively speaking. We've had temperatures in the 90s. We've had temperatures in the 90s for the last week or so, but it seems like the temperature has come down a bit, which is nice. We did have to run our air conditioning, and I'm so thankful that we have it to be able to turn on, because it was getting pretty toasty there. And I'm so sorry for my viewers who are in Europe where air conditioning is not a normal thing. There are actually quite a few homes in Connecticut that don't have air conditioning either. Because I think previously to global warming, the heat waves did not last very long, and it is really a pretty temperate climate here, comparatively speaking, especially to Ohio. It's not very humid. So I could see how if the overall temperature, average temperature, had not been rising, that it could be just fine to get through summer. So long-winded, but yeah, we do have air conditioning in our home. I think it was built in the mid to late 80s, so definitely when that mindset would have been shifting. So we have all the modern conveniences. But I do have a lot of things to share with you today. I have one finished object, one mostly finished object, and a lot of whips and some stuff that I'm thinking about casting on. And I have a sewing project that's almost done, and one that's going, but I just cut it out, so I'm not going to show you just cut out pieces of it. But I did want to take a few minutes right at the top of the episode to talk about what has been happening on Ravelry and on Instagram. So for those who do not participate in Instagram, there was an incident fairly recently. I think it was while I was camping, because I sort of caught up on things later, but I learned about it from Little Skein Anne, and I follow her on Instagram, and she had one of her test knitters be targeted by some, I guess I would say right wing, but that may not make sense for people internationally who aren't United States political junkies, but essentially she was the target of some hate speech, as well as people exposing her personal information on the internet across many platforms, across YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. I'm really not on any social media other than Instagram and, the stuff I say at the beginning of the episode. But that's not okay. It's not okay to treat people that way. It's not okay to come after people personally and reveal their information. And subsequently, she was the target of multiple people reporting her as violating the terms of service for Instagram. So she actually had her account revoked. There are quite a few people working to try to get her access back. It is Lizzie+6 is the name of the person on Instagram. And so if you have time, and if you're on the Instagram platform, you can actually do a couple of things to help. You can send a report to Instagram. So Little Skein Anne actually has instructions on how to do that in her stories. So you can go and check that out. And I have in my stories linked to her profile. And yeah, please go and do what you can, because people should not be treated that way. Specifically, she is a person of color, and if you don't think that this ugliness is happening in our crafting community, I hope that the blindfold slash band-aid has been ripped off at this point, and you know, that you've chosen to be on the right side of that. So I support Lizzie Plus 6. I support everyone who's fighting for her, and I definitely support Ravelry's recent decision that they've made, and they have their new policy posted. Obviously, it's just a first step. Hate speech is not just in the United States, and having lived internationally, I know that we have a tendency to have a very insular focus in our news, in our worldview, etc. Nothing showed that to me more quickly than living in Mexico and seeing that the stuff that was just dominating the news, because I lived there I moved there right after the O.J. Simpson car chase happened, if people know about that. And it was everywhere on the news. It was like the entire time I was there, the trial, all of the shenanigans. I don't know anything about that other than the tropes that I've read in the news, because no one cared. People were not talking about that in the rest of the world, but it just consumed the oxygen in the news here. So I think we have to be mindful of that and think about the fact that, hey, we're not the only people in the world, and there's a lot of other things going on. So great first step. I absolutely applaud them for that, and I hope that that journey keeps going, to make sure that everyone who's being targeted can be protected. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. I will continue to do what I can on my own sad little humble Instagram. I am terrible at Instagram. I don't know much about stories. There's a lot of people that do a great job of like framing, putting things on there, putting articles and all of that stuff, and I don't know how to do it. But I'm trying my best to link to other profiles that are doing a really great job of that, at least bringing attention to it, and donating coffees, meaning KO-FI. It's how you can donate to people who have coffee pages, but for people that are out there really doing their best to bring awareness to things, I'm trying to support where I can. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. So, as far as FOs, I have one, and it's wet, so it's kind of gross to hold up, but I washed it yesterday, and I'm really surprised it's not dry yet. But I completed a sock head hat for my husband. So this is knit out of Knit Picks Felici Sport. So it's the original Felici that used to be produced before it was discontinued for a long time. This came from my Aunt Lynn's stash. When she passed away, I grabbed, I think, all of the Felici that she had. She had three sets of Felici. She had one that was Summer Berries. I've made socks out of that. She had one that was Neapolitan. I've made socks out of that. And this is the last Felici that I have from her stash. The colorway is Sticks and Stones. And so it's got all these nice browns, tans, and grays. It's a really pretty colorway. And it made it just a slight bit larger and a little bit more squishy, which I think will be really nice for my husband because he has a little bit bigger of a head. This is actually pretty snug on his head, but he wanted a very, what he calls, low profile hat. So it can either be just slightly slouchy on him, or he actually prefers to have the brim doubled, so I made the brim long enough that he can pull it down. This will fit over his head with a double brim. So all I have to do is weave in this one end. The one on the top is already woven in, but I wanted to wash and block it first because this one I'll have to be more careful to make sure it's woven in nicely so that when he has it doubled up, you can't really see it. I believe I used 2.75 mil needles, but that doesn't mean anything. Your mileage may vary on your gauge. It's so soft. Now that it's been washed, it's so soft. It's really nice. So yeah, I'm really happy that I finished that. It's going to be very nice for fall camping and just for walking outside and stuff like that, doing work out in his workshop, because we do have a detached, I think it's supposed to be a detached garage, but we just use it for his wood shop and for some general storage as well. Sorry, there's some weird sounds downstairs. There's a bird, a cardinal, that has decided that the basement window is his enemy. I think because he can see his reflection like every day for a week and a half. He's just been down there, boom, 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 with his beak attacking that window. I really hope he doesn't like break it. I'll be really mad if that stupid cardinal makes me have to repair that window. But like, I've tried to lift up the curtain so that it's not reflective. I've tried like making noises back. Nothing is working. That cardinal wants that window to die. I don't know. So one more look. This is a Sockhead Slouch hat. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And apparently this is where all my sock mojo has gone, because I've knit one for Megwin's teacher, I've knit this one for Josh, and you'll see a little bit later that I actually cast on another one for Joshua. But it's a nice basic hat, and it's very mindless to knit, which is good. The second thing that's sort of on my needles, but almost done, is also wet. The episode of sharing wet things. So it's my Tanya, and this is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. I'm knitting this out of Volanvine yarns. I brought the tag over, but I don't know where I put it down. Ooh, it looks like it's gonna rain. Oh, there it is. It's in a discontinued base, the Strassa base, and it is Jilted Rose. Last time that I podcast, everything was backwards. This is showing as backwards right now, so I really hope that it flips it around in editing. So this is what the tags used to look like for Volanvine. This one comes in a 400 yard put up, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and I'm pretty darn sure I'm going to run out of yarn. This is what I have left. I would guess it's probably 20 grams. And I have finished the body, so I just have to do the sleeves. One thing that I noticed, I tried this on, and I noticed that the arms were tight, the armholes. And I read about that being a problem, so I actually did add length to it. So when I measured these blocked now, they are 7 inches. And where it told me to knit to in the pattern for the size I knit for, it was like 5.25 or 5.5 on the back and 4.25 on the front, which I don't get why the different lengths, but I don't know. So anyway, they measure 7 inches total now after blocking. So I'm going to retry it on once it's dry. And hopefully the blocking will have added enough length where it's going to feel less tight. I don't feel like my arm is that huge, but I don't freaking know. I don't know how big my arm is. I do have pretty large, like, biceps. I mean, for a woman, I guess. And I have kind of beefy shoulders, so I don't, maybe that's a problem. Also, this part was a little bit tight as well, so probably because the armholes were tight. So it does feel like it's loosened up a bit, so I'm really hoping that it's going to work now. It's definitely grown in length. It's superwash, so, you know, it's going to grow in length. So that's my hope that it will be fine. But it was already okay. The length of it was okay before I blocked it. So if it had grown a little bit, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. Jilted Rose is like my favorite color maybe ever that Kristen has dyed. However, she said it was very difficult to get it to be consistent, so that's why she stopped dyeing this colorway. There is another person on Ravelry that has the sister skein of my two skeins. She has it listed for sale, and I've messaged her, but she never messaged me back. So I don't know if she's changed her mind and forgot to mark it. It's showing that it's been read, and she's showing that she's been online somewhat recently, so it's not that she's someone who's rarely on. So I don't know. Maybe I will get that sister skein, maybe I won't. Also, a very kind viewer who I did not get permission to name, so I won't. Great, it just started pouring down rain. Josh and the kids went to the lake, so I may be interrupted here because they're probably going to make a run for it to the car. But whatever, we're going to do what we can. So anyway, the very generous viewer has a skein of this in Volca and offered to send it to me. And I said, okay, I'll let you know if I'm going to run out of yarn. And I do think I will. So I've messaged her, and I believe she's already put it in the mail. So I'm just holding off so that I can actually alternate this with that other skein for the sleeves and try to, you know, blend it as much as I can. But let me show you the body. So I did alternate all the way up to like here, and then I ran out of my skein I was alternating with because I did not alternate skeins for the lace portion. I thought it would be too difficult given the very complex pattern, so I just did that with one skein, and then I alternated throughout the body. I think it looks really cool. It looks kind of like distressed suede, like old, pretty distressed mauve suede. Mauve suede. So there it is on the back. I didn't have any pooling. Really, even when I switched to the one skein, which is up here, it has a slight bit there, but it's such a subtle color that I don't mind it at all. Oh, it's thunder I've been hearing. Great. I really hope they do leave the beach because it's not safe for them to be on the beach with this kind of weather. Kids are going to be terrified. All right. So anyway, that is my Tanya sweater. Bring it closer so you can see that really beautiful lace detail on it. I did block out, you know, the bottom. It's 90% dry. This one's just lightly damp. But I am going to put it gently over there so I can try to preserve my blocking if possible. So while that was drying, I decided I would switch to what is the other Caitlin Hunter project on my needles, which is Cipolla. So I think it's been a little bit since I've shown you this. Just to remind you, I'm knitting this out of Wool and Vine Yarns, Volca in Lady of the Lake, and the Yarn at Home Mom in an unnamed turquoise colorway on her glimmer base. So it is sparkly, but sparkle, as always, is impossible to capture on the camera. You can see a bit of it there, like if you look down in here as I do that. So I've completed the yoke. I've tried this on. It fits beautifully. I made the size small. I did go up on a needle size for this portion of the sweater, and then I went back down to my other needle size. I'm using the helical knitting method for the body so that I do not have carried yarn, and I'm alternating skeins. So this one, again, I've almost I'm over halfway through one skein and I've got about 3/4 of another because I did not alternate skeins of the turquoise through this portion. I just went with one since I already was working with 2 skeins of yarn. I didn't need to be working with 3. And there's not a ton of that color, actually. A lot of it's the floating because it's mostly the contrast color. So, yep, it has short row shaping in the back to bring that neckline up on the back. This one I actually prefer the neckline to the Zweig, which is the other colorwork yoked pattern that I have made by Caitlin Hunter. I'm going to make another Zweig that is short sleeved, so I may actually borrow the stitch count and shaping from this one just because I like it better. That might be cool. And not have the ribbing on the top. I think this rolled neckline is so pretty and simple, and I think it would look really nice on the Zweig, especially because I'm going to make it short sleeve. Now I have really weird light because it's dark outside because it's thundery. So anyway, that is my Cipolla. I added waist shaping, so that's what these markers are. So I did 4 sets of decreases. I'm doing them every 9 rows, and now I did like 2.5 inches straight, and then I started increasing again. So once I finish my 4 increases, I think it'll probably be time to start the bottom ribbing. This one calls for a pretty small bottom ribbing, but I actually prefer my ribbing to be 2 to 3 inches long. I just think it helps shape the sweater a little bit better on my hips. I have pretty small hips relative to the rest of my body. This is the weirdest light ever. I made it actually turn on the lamp. I don't know if that'll help or make it be even weirder. Maybe make it be even weirder. This is the podcast of weird light and wet things. You're welcome, world. Oh my god, this is so weird. It doesn't know what to do with itself because right there is a clearing in the trees, which is why my corner is a very good place to podcast because I don't have the weird green light. But when there's strange storm lighting like this, I got a weird sunbeam coming at me, but then it's dark everywhere around. We're gonna keep muddling through. So the next thing I have to share with all of you is that hat I mentioned. So this is the yarn I'm using. It is one of the more recent versions of Felici that was released, or colorways of Felici that was released, called Firefighter. Joshua really loves firefighters, so I bought it to make something for him. Originally I was thinking socks, but I started a sock head hat for him instead. So here's what I have so far. I really love how this is striping up. It's super cool. And it looks like it has kind of irregular size stripes on the gray. When I look at the ball, there's some that are just really short and some that are thicker. So I think we're going to have kind of thick and thin gray, dark gray stripes in between. The red and the light gray are the same throughout. So you can kind of see that here. Like this dark gray is only 2 strands across the ball versus this one was the same as the red and the light gray. And I think when I've seen it knit up that it does have some smaller stripes in as well. So anyway, that's what's going on there. I'm worried about them. And I'm actually drinking iced tea today. So I almost never drink iced drinks. I actually really don't like iced drinks. But it was really hot in the house. It was like 78 in the house. It's probably going to cool off immensely now with this thunderstorm. So this bottle, I think I've shown because I got it at Christmas time, from David's Tea. It opens up on the bottom, so you can flip it and open this and put ice inside of it. And it's meant to brew or to pour iced tea over top of your ice, or hot tea over top of your ice. So I made some of the strawberry tea that Cheryl, who is Cheryl Can, gave me when we met at Rhinebeck. She gave me a couple of different teas from the Anne of Green Gables store. So this one was a strawberry tea, and then I think there's a blackberry tea maybe. This one's really good. So it's a black tea with strawberry in it. So I just brewed it a little bit stronger, poured it over some ice, and I added some soy creamer to it. So it's yummy. And then sewing. These are the shorts for Megwin. So I finished everything except for hemming them. And it's a little bit weird because I made the pattern exactly to have, to be size 7 all the way through. And I just figured I'd make the elastic a little bit longer or smaller. But look at the back versus the front. Like how much of a difference in length. I don't understand. Like, what the heck is going on there? I drafted the pattern exactly to the size 7. So are they supposed to be longer in the back? How the heck am I supposed to hem that? So that it doesn't have a weird boop boop. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I don't know. But anyway, I think I did a pretty good job with the pattern. My mom said she actually bought this for placemats, this fabric, and then never ended up making them. So I took it when she was destashing, and I think they'll make really cute shorts. Usually our neighbors have some kind of something going on for July 4th, like they have a bunch of people over or whatever. So if they do that, but they may not this year because they're going on vacation. I think they're going to be gone all week this week because all of the neighbor kids were over here yesterday. There were 3 of them. So I had 5 children, and hats off to you mothers who have 5 children because it was insane. Insane. They never stopped eating, for one. I was constantly feeding some child or making sure that some child wasn't fighting with some other child and that everybody was playing nicely. Although they did better than when just the one oldest girl comes over, because then Megwin and Joshua are kind of competing for her attention and to play with her. And I think actually when all the kids were here, they just kind of more focused on all of them playing. So, you know, in some ways it was better, in some ways not. These have a big waistband on them, but the elastic I had was actually smaller than that. So you can see there's a gap there. I just didn't want to run out and get more elastic when I had something that would work. So how I got around that is I put all of the gathers to the back, which I think looks nicer anyway because it keeps that nice flat front. And then I tacked on either side. I did a stitch in the ditch. I still have to close up the elastic casing spot. I'll go back with needle and thread and hand stitch that closed. But I did tack it down, so I went stitch in a ditch through the seam on both sides so that the elastic won't roll when she wears them. So that's just a little tip for those sewing clothes for children. You can keep elastic from rolling in the casing by just tacking it down on the sides. So the back, you can see that's where all the gathers are, and they can kind of move around. I may do one more seam in the center. I don't know yet what I'm going to do. I did not pattern match quite as nicely back here because it sort of tapers for that center back seam. So you can see like the squares get smaller, but they turned out pretty cute. There's bias tape along the pockets, and the pockets are pretty large. So Megwin said she was excited about having nice big pockets to collect things when she's outside. And, you know, imagine like a child's hands in there. They're much larger for her than they are for my full grown hands. So yeah, I think they turned out pretty cute. I will be making a couple of more pairs for her. I'll probably make some out of the twill that I bought for my shorts. So maybe I'll make her a plain khaki pair and a black pair, since I got quite a bit of yardage from that, and I didn't realize until they were cutting the fabric that it was 60-inch wide fabric, so I could get a lot out of that fabric. But they do fit her fairly well. They're a little bit loose in the waist, but that's actually good because then she may be able to wear them for 2 years instead of 1. So that's those. They don't want to fold though, because the elastic I had, again, is pretty sturdy elastic. Yeah, I don't know, it's very stiff. So that is what I've been sewing. And let's see. Oh my god, what have I done? I just pulled the stitch marker off of my zipper. Okay. This is the socks for Josh, but I haven't knit anything on those recently. Okay. The only other thing I've really made any progress on is my blanket, which has a lot of stuff hanging off of it right now because I have 3 colors actively going. I just dropped a needle somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay. How can I show this to you? Okay. So this is the Northeasterly blanket, a pattern by Skinanigans, who is Melissa Alexander Loomis. She also has a second release called Southeasterly, which gives you options for adding different stitch patterns into your blanket. And it also gives you a way to square off the ends. So the ends, as initially written, are like these pennants. So you get a little chevron on the edge, which I actually rather like. I think it's a nice, fun detail. So I left that. But if you didn't want to and you wanted to make your ends be even, the Southeasterly is the edition that you can get that will allow you to do that. So I'm doing mine in rainbow-ish order. Basically, I'm taking all of my scraps of a particular color family and grouping them together. So I started with blue for whatever reason. I don't know why I didn't start with purple or something like that, but I didn't. I liked this color of blue, and that's what I started with. I don't know. Don't ask me to make sense. I don't even make sense to myself. So what I've added since last time is I finished this strip, which is all the Hogwarts colorway from Adelaide Cottage. Then I added some of this colorway. This was in a pack that I got from Knitting Expat, Mina Phillip. So I won a giveaway from her a long time ago. It was when she still lived in Bahrain. And it included a bag from Handwoven Fabric from there, and she included a little mini of all of the socks she knit the year that she did like it was like a sock contest between her and another podcaster to see who could knit the most socks. And so she included a little mini from all of the socks that she knit during that month-long contest. So I have no idea what the colorway is. She did originally send a paper with all of the yarns and colors, but I've lost it. I don't know. Then it has a little mini here of, I believe it's Lady of the Lake. It's really pretty. But I think, yeah, looking at my sweater, I think it's Lady of the Lake. And then that little stitch marker that I've shown before is from Simply Serving on Etsy. It's a s'mores cupcake. Then on the green, I think I had started this one last time because I didn't like this color, so I actually just cut it off. So I just had a teeny bit of it, and it's a singles anyway, so I don't want to have too much of singles in my blanket. So I started knitting this one, but then I felt like I didn't want to knit too much green. So I wanted to go back to yellow because I started the yellow stripe, and that was my mistake because I love yellow. It's my favorite color, and I couldn't help myself, and I just wanted to knit all the yellow. So I think I've finished this one since I showed you last time. This is from No Makers. It is, I believe, Omelette. There was like a breakfast mini skein bundle. I got this one in the mini skein swap that I do with Anna Knitter. We do it like every year at Christmas time, so it's an Advent swap. So I think I got that one the year before last. And then this is another Adelaide Cottage mini from her Magical Places set, which is the same one that the Hogwarts came from. And this one is called Gringotts, which is the bank where the goblins work. And I love that one. It's so pretty. I'd love to have a full skein of that, but I need to not buy more yarn. I keep buying yarn. But I need to start saving for Rhinebeck. I really do. That said, I do have the sweaters quantities from Hey Sister Yarn Co. that are coming whenever they finish dyeing through all of their orders. They decided to discontinue their business, and they took one last custom order from everyone. So I ordered 2 sweater quantities of colors of theirs that I've always wanted, and I just had never caught an update or whatever. So I thought, well, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to be able to. So those are coming. I ordered a sweaters quantity of Warm and Cozy on the Ginger base from Once Upon a Corgi, so it's her sparkle base, which she had that at the show I went to, the Connecticut Sheep and Wool Festival, but she only had 2 skeins left, and I wanted 3 because I need 3 skeins at least. And if I do color work, that's enough to do the body and long sleeves of a sweater, and then I can have an alternate color for the yoke. I think that's it for what I have coming. And then I heard that Kristen is thinking about having a yarn club, so I can't skip yarn clubs. I'd be really sad if I skipped her yarn club. I haven't missed one ever. So that's my blanket, my northeasterly blanket. The blue strip is actually almost big enough now to go across my king size bed, which is what I'm going for. I want this to be a blanket for my bed. So once that one gets long enough, then I'll start knitting all the other ones long enough. I will have to stop the yellow because I'll have to knit the green enough so that I can continue connecting it, because you connect it as you go, which is nice. Or I'll have to start an orange one and put this one on hold. But I at least want to finish. I'm really sorry. My nose is very itchy right now. I did a lot of cleaning today, so my suspicion is that I got a lot of dust going on, and it's also been a little bit of a high pollen count recently. So yeah, that is that. There's my little narwhal from Sugar Tots on Etsy. She's a charm maker from Canada. That is my blanket. This is full of all of my greens. So I do need to knit more greens. I really should like cake some of them up because I don't particularly like working from them when they're in the skein. I can do it. Mini skeins are okay to do that with, but not full skeins. The final thing I've knit on, oh, here they come, is my Yellow So Faded. So this I knit out of Life in the Long Grass on the cushion colorway so far. And I really love how it's knitting up. So I'm knitting the size 38 bust. I love those little limey speckles. And it matches this little Notions pouch that my mom got me. That beautiful lemony yellow. So when I do So Fadeds, I always knit the first color through the arms hole separation, the sleeve separation, and then I start fading to the next color, because your first color, you don't see as much of it from the front because it has a V neck. So I think I've got a little ways still to go before the sleeve separation on that. So that is all of my whips. And I will really quickly go through my purchases because I just have these. So if you'll recall, last time I showed some Debbie Bliss Fine Donegal, and I talked about that my local yarn store had it on sale for 70% off. And I went back to see if I could get the black, and they actually had sold out of the black of this color, but they had this beautiful burnt orange. It's showing up like neon, but it's really like a burnt orange. Maybe I'll insert a picture so you can see better the color, but if you imagine like you know, fall leaves, that's the color that it is. So a dark pumpkin with neutral speckles. It is not that bright orange. So I got 4 balls of that. And then for working with that, I got this beautiful gold color. Also Debbie Bliss Fine Donegal. And then they also had in the 70% off some Lang Donegal, which felt very similar. So this is just 100% merino. It's a little bit more scratchy actually, because the Debbie Bliss Fine Donegal has a little bit of cashmere in it, but this one is 100% merino, non-superwash. So I got 2 of these neutral kind of oatmeal-y color and 1 black, since I couldn't get the black of the Debbie Bliss, but this will be just as good. So I thought if I can hold those with this one, that would make a really beautiful colorwork yoke. And if I somehow could work in the gold as well, that is just an amazing palette. So I'll see what I come up with on this. I do have the Alyeska sweater. I bought that pattern when it first came out, so that might be a really good candidate because I think it calls for 4 colors, and I haven't been sure of what to knit that out of. So maybe I'll use these to do an Alyeska, which is another Caitlin Hunter pattern. I also have some really great Jennifer Steingast patterns, Knit Love Wool. So I may use those as well. One of those. And then I wound up yarn for the short sleeves Vigue, like I was talking about. So here are the colors I'm going to use. It is this one, just from the Yarn at Home Mom on her Glimmer Base. This is Vicious Trollop. And then this yarn from Adelaide Cottage in Pop Tarts. So it will be a Gilmore Girls themed sweater, and it will be cooler than my one that I have out of Yak. And I think it'll be really pretty as a short sleeve sweater. So that is the plan. It's in my bag from Sarah, Fluff Sock Wool. I thought it was really pretty. The colors, I think, go really nicely. Sometimes I try to match and be fancy. So that is pretty much everything. Oh, I can show you this really quick. So if you'll recall, last week I showed these minis from, or 2 weeks ago, from Tommy, who is the dyer behind Moonstone Dye Works. And Rabby Tots actually said she went and bought one of her DK Soldotna kits. I totally might knit a Soldotna, but not as a crop. I have an idea for what to knit it for as a full-length sweater. I think I might do black with like highlighter colors. I think it'd be really cool. So anyway, I thought this would be really pretty as the missing like pinkish color I was looking for. So this is one of my skeins from the Adelaide Cottage Minis bundle, and I think it goes really nicely with the others. It's not sparkly, but that's okay. So then I have my full rainbow for my Rainbow Wings shawl, and this colorway is called Fizzing Whizbees. And it's from her Honeyduke's Sweet Treats Harry Potter mini skeins bundle that I got. So I really liked how those go together. So that'll definitely get cast on soon. I'd like to have this shawl done for Rhinebeck. Because I think it would make a cool Rhinebeck shawl to have. And if I'm wearing something mauve, which if it's hot enough, I may wear my Tanya, but then I would have a shawl to put on over it if it gets cool, or if it's cooler, I may try to finish the cardigan out of the yarn I bought from Gabby in the, is it Nose Stuck in a Book? Feel like it's Nose Stuck in a Book, but it's like a mauvey pink with neutral speckles. So yeah, I think that would be really pretty, and then I'd have a shawl to kind of go with it. The other thing I'm thinking about casting on probably when I finish Tanya is TU. I forgot to check the pronunciation, so I apologize. It's a pattern by Aroha Knits, and it is a sleeveless shell for summer, and it has a beautiful lace pattern up the front. I believe I've shown it on a previous podcast, but I will insert a picture here. And it's almost like a leafy pattern going up the front. So I thought it'd be really, really pretty in my other first sweater quantity, small sweater quantity of yarn I ever bought from Kristen for making something. This is in her Footsie Base, and it is on the Succulents colorway. And again, this was when she first came out with Succulents, so I think it's a little bit more muted than this now, a little more on the gray side of the spectrum, but I really love that mine are this warm mint color. So I think that would make a very stunning shell, and then it would match a lot of stuff and look nice under things as well. So that will probably be the next thing on my needles. I don't know how to do the helical knitting method with patterning on the front though, so I may have to just carry it up the side like I've done traditionally, but I will alternate skeins because maybe you can see that this one is slightly more yellowy than this one, so there is definitely a difference. So I will alternate skeins when I make it, but this is 800 yards, so given that Tanya, I had enough and I had this much left to make sleeves, I definitely will have enough for a sleeveless top. So yeah, that's everything I've got to show you for this week. That's going across the room now. Yarn wheel! So I will get off of here, and I think the kids are probably going to want ice cream or something since their lake time was just ruined by thunderstorms. So maybe we will go and get some ice cream because ice cream sounds really good. And I will draw next time for a winner in the Stash Your Shelf Challenge because it's not quite July 1st, it's June 30th today. So I wanted to make sure I gave you guys the full amount of time to post your FOs. So you'll have until the next time that I podcast, maybe a few days before. I usually put in a post and say mark for drawing winners for the Stash Your Shelf Challenge. It won't be next week because next week I've got a very busy work week ahead of me, so it definitely will not be next week. Yeah. Oh, I guess I should share non-knitting content, right? So for those of you who just joined me for the knitting, thank you, and I will see you next time. And for those of you who would like a little update on what's been going on, stick around. So we went camping, and I think I shared some of that last time I podcast. But after we got back from camping, my husband started building the kids' swing set. We finally bought them the play set, so he's got different parts of it up. So maybe I'll insert a couple of photos so you guys can see how far along it is. Hopefully he'll be able to finish it this week, and then the kids will be able to play with it for the rest of the summer. And then, trying to think, Josh is doing jujitsu now on Saturday and Sunday mornings, so podcasting is going to be more challenging. He said that like every 2 weeks he's going to try to take the kids for a little while somewhere so that I'll have a little bit of time to podcast. But I am losing my time on Saturdays in the morning when I used to sew and clean the house. So we'll see how that goes. My house will probably become a train wreck. Else. Megwin has been doing a lot of drawing. She finished her swimming class. And she's going to start watercolor classes next week. So that'll be nice for her to get some painting in again. And there's actually one called Pee Wee Picasso that I think we might try to do for Joshua because he loves art as well, and we should definitely encourage him too. So that's that. Josh bought a sandbag as well, so as if he isn't doing enough working out from lifting 5 days a week and now doing jujitsu twice a week, he's also doing a sandbag workout outside because he's obsessed, and I guess there are worse things for you to be obsessed with. So, yay. And I've been trying to walk in the evenings. One downside of my newish job, I've been at it for over a year now, is that the place that I came from, like I had to do a lot of walking back and forth for meetings. There were multiple buildings. So I just got a lot of steps in every day. It was usually between 6 and 10,000 a day. And now my new role is at a very small building. Everybody's kind of right there, or I'm interacting with people in different locations and doing a lot of on the phone. So my steps have plummeted to about 1,600 a day. So way less, and I've definitely noticed it. So I've been doing weightlifting twice a week, and now I've started trying to walk. My goal is to walk 5 days a week for at least 30 minutes. So I've been saving all of my audio podcasts for when I'm doing that because it's nice. I'm just walking back and forth on my driveway because we don't live somewhere where there's a sidewalk. We live off of a highway. Um, so the highway is quite busy, and I wouldn't want to walk there if I didn't want to die. So my driveway's pretty long though, so I can just walk back and forth on my driveway. So I just do that for 30 minutes, and sometimes I'll like loop out into the yard and stuff so that I can look at the plants or the garden. So it's been really nice. And I'm doing it in the evenings when it's starting to cool off, so that's good. Um, yeah, so I'm trying to stay active and get my steps in and stuff. And we're trying to keep the kids busy for the summer, and then Joshua starts school in the fall, which is great. So we're excited about that. Um, and I'm gonna go because I have to start closing windows now because it is really coming down and it's getting really, really dark outside. So until next time, I hope you all get to spend some time doing the things you love, and I will talk to you soon. All right, bye bye.